What up? What up? What up? This is your boy Tad Data. Got a little show for you today. Let me go ahead and check my sound. Make sure I'm coming in decent so we can go ahead and get it in. Now today's show. What is good, family? Now today's show is about teaching our bootleg brothers and sisters about scientific mathematics. Something very simple, and it's also very tricky. So you got to put those two together and come up with a new word. Now I can do this a couple different ways. I can sit here and give you 30 minutes of spin, 30 minutes of my opinion, and have about 4 minutes of actual reading or activity, and then at the end I could spend another 10-15 minutes on why you should trust me. There's a couple different ways I can do it. What up, family? What up, family? What you doing? What you doing up at this time? These are elite hours right here. What up, family? Who we got? We got Joe 47 in the building. You must be maybe West Coast. It don't matter. But anyway, so we're gonna teach our bootleg brothers and sisters about a little bit of math, so they will be able to understand what's going on. Now, we out here. We out here. Now, first off, let's talk about the indigenous. Some people call it indigenous movement. Some people call it the indigenous culture. And some people just say hell with all those labels, man. This is my birthright. But whatever you want to call it, some people just can't swallow the pill because it's damaging to their nervous system. But very respectfully, let me let you know that I'm here to play the game. I'm here to play the game. I'm not here to make a name for myself. I'm here to play the game. Now, you guys invented the game. You guys had thousands, hundreds of year head start in the game. But there's only one thing that you don't understand. You might be well educated in the game, but this is my land. So, let's do this very respectfully, very honest, and let's keep it moving. Now, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the indigenous before I get in, because of course I have to spend a half an hour putting my spin on whatever garbage I'm finna say, even though it's not going to last more than about 4 or 5 minutes, but I'm going to spend a half an hour giving my opinion, hoping my opinion outweighs my actual information. Funny. That shit is funny. But anyway, now there's two things that make an indigenous person. There's two things. Some people might say it's three. Now, let's give my opinion on what makes a bootleg African. What makes a bootleg African is that they believe every single body, every single species, every single thing pretty much came out of Africa. So therefore everybody should bow down to Africa. Even though there's different types of people, different types of DNA. Well, I can't say different types of DNA because actually I don't know. But there's different types of so-called species and different types of, you know, races that all supposedly came out of Africa. Now this is the basics. Now there's different types of African theories, but we're not gonna break those down. There's different types, but the main thing is that they believe everybody came out of Africa, so therefore everybody should pay homage to Africa. Now there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually pretty good. That's actually pretty clever. And that's pretty much what sums up their argument. That pretty much what sums up their philosophy and everything they say. Now, when you're talking about the indigenous people and the indigenous movement, now there's two things that you have to understand first. First thing you have to understand is that we were here first. We were here before you got here. We were here before I don't even know what to classify people anymore. Everything seems so. It's like everything you classify some people for. It just nothing really just hit the spot where you want to hit at. But let's just say the Europeans. We was here before them. Now, that's one thing indigenous people understand. And the next thing is the future. We all have a future for ourselves. Whether it's living in our own land, or whether it's kicking people out, whether it's having to stand up and fight, or whether it's, doing some paperwork, whether it's going back to nature and everybody just go around and kick it and whatever. We all have a some sense of a future, and we have a sense that we were here. And those two things right there is what make up an indigenous person. That's it. Only those two things. Those are two things we all have in common. Now, some people say, well, we came from Africa. Okay. That don't mean nothing. We're here, and we still have a future. Some people say, well, we came from Africa and we blended with people. Well, okay. That's cool. But we're here first, and we still have a future. Some people twist it all up, and they got all these type of theories of how we got here. Okay, we'll take any theory you can come out with on how we got here. It doesn't negate the fact that we were here, and it doesn't negate the fact of our future, our end game, our plans, our goals. That's it. Now, within the indigenous, I say culture, because that's pretty much what we're turning into, or what we are. But it might not be right, and that's just my personal opinion. It doesn't go for anybody else. Now, there are Hebrews, there's Moors, there's Muslims, there's all types of people. There's no one ideology. So anytime somebody uses the word they automatically disqualify themselves. And for even who are you talking to? Be specific who you're talking to, because we all don't have a single claim. We all have individual claims. Now, some individuals within, the indigenous culture have certain claims. And these claims are big claims. And everybody don't believe them, and everybody don't speak upon them. But everybody know one thing, is that why come nobody really debunk them? Like, Like my guy Chief Holiday, he say, man, Harriet Tubman don't exist, Nat Turner don't exist. Man, that's a big, huge claim, man. You can't come around some professional scholars with a big, huge claim like that. But yet, nobody turn up any evidence. Now, those are his claims, and those are their claims, and everybody got their own claims. So, if you're talking to them, just talk to them. If you're talking to the culture, talk to the culture. But let's go ahead and get on some math. Enough gobbledygook, enough garbage. I just had to put some garbage out there. But so let's get into some mathematics, you guys. Let's get into some mathematics. Now, you know your boy Tad Data, the sideboard. You know I'm very into math. And so math is, it's pretty easy for me. Now, let's get into some simple math about for a second about bones. About bones. Let's get into some simple math about bones. And yeah, and let's make this kind of short. Let's not make this that long. Let's make this kind of short. Sorry to the chat room. I can't really see the chat. So if you out there, peace. But I just want to kind of get in and make this simple as possible. Now, when you're dealing with the bones and you're dealing with mathematics, first you have to understand math. There's different levels of math. There's only a couple levels of reading. Parasite reading. You're reading other people's material. You need some material to read. There's only a couple levels of that. But when it comes to mathematics, there's lots of different levels. You got simple adding and subtracting, goes all the way up to calculus and things that your brain can't even go when it's dealing with math. And so we're going to have to share some of this math with some of our bootleg brothers and sisters because, it kind of seemed like they don't really add it into their scholarship or whatever they call it. They don't use it. So we're going to have to break this down and show them how to use it. So now let's deal with the earth and its buried bones. Now, if you have to put a number on how many bones that is buried beneath the ground, it have to be the numbers you're going to have to use is either in the millions, either in the billions, or even in the trillions. Now, there's two ways you can look at the bones that's beneath the planet, or I should say in the ground. You can look at them as full skeletons, or you can look at them in individual bones. Now, if you want to look at them with individual bones, what you need to do is you need to time million times billion times trillion, and then the number you come up with will be somewhere in that ballpark if you want to go with individual bones. I mean, the average human has about 2,000 something bones or something like that. That's just a guess or something I've seen in a fortune cookie or something. I don't even know where I got that number from. So you feel free to correct me if you want to. But there's a lot of bones. Okay? And so if we want to go with skeletons, just full body skeletons that's beneath in the ground, it's somewhere in the millions, billions, or trillions. Okay? Now so understand that you can take your pick of how many bones you think that this world has. You can take your pick. So go ahead and take your pick because we finna do some math so you can come up with your number and everybody can come up with their own number. So take your pick. I'm gonna go with billions. I'm gonna go with the one in the middle. You can go with millions or trillions. It really don't matter. And we're talking, if you can talk individual bones or you can talk full skeletons. You can ride whatever wave you want to ride, but one of these is going to be about one of these. Okay? Now, so you got your number. I'm gonna take billions. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave billions up there. Now, you have, let's say you have a billion bones or skeletons, whichever one you want to call it, right? Now, let's see how many have been uncovered. How many have scientists discovered? Now, they discovered a couple thousand. They discovered some thousands, y'all. They discovered a couple thousand skeletons of bones. So everybody know that is less than 1%. So they don't even have at least 1%. Now, in mathematics, in order to have a decent conclusion, you're going to have to at least unveil at least 30%. And that's not even 100%. It's only some reliable evidence, or that's some good research. That's some good mathematics. So they don't even have 30% of the world's bones. But yet they have a story of where you migrated and how you got here. So let's put this in perspective. You got 1,000. Now let's say you got 1 billion bones. 1 billion. We find a couple thousand. And from this couple thousand, we're able to tell you exactly where you came from. We're able to tell you your migration patterns. We're able to tell you all this information off of less than 1%. Is anybody understand math? Do anybody understand math? Like this is simple. This is simple math, just simple like division. I mean, this is not even that hard. So this is how this works. You find less than 1% of the world's bones, right? Okay? Less than 1%. And you put a story to those bones, right? And you basically have people going around believing less than 1%. And at some point, you have to say to yourself, they know better. These people know what they're doing. They know better. And so I'm gonna have to be straight up, and I'm gonna have to say, hey, look. Look. I don't know who y'all think we is. And I don't know what y'all think we're about. But the shit ain't gonna cut it. It ain't gonna cut it no more. We're different people. We're different breed. We are our own unique people. We're different from the African. We're different from everybody else. We're our own unique people, and you're not gonna stop us from becoming that. Sure, it might hurt whatever it hurts, but there's no way you're gonna stop us from becoming our own people. You can try as much as you want. Now, when these guys reading these mainstream scientific reviews, understand one thing. When it comes to mainstream science, those are the same people that's attached to the eugenics society, and to the Darwinism, and to all that junk. So you mean to tell me you gonna go from to somebody who's trying to wipe us out to somebody who's trying to help us figure things out? Is that what you're trying to say? Is that how it goes? And so to the mainstream scientific community, you guys reign supreme for a long period of time. The world is getting smaller and smarter and faster. and also dumber. You can't pull this off like you used to. You can't just come out with something that we just gonna believe like you used to. And you just can't plant people in our neighborhoods and expect us to just go with the flow because they got some shiny shit. Excuse the cussing. I am part human. Now, so basically, you have, let's break this down. You have less than 1%. It ain't even a 4%. So I don't even want to do the math. Cause I can understand if it was 1% of a billion, we can go ahead and break that down. But we talking in less than 1%. So they don't even got a percent of the world's bones discovered, right? And yet they have this story and this agenda that they are pushing, telling you where you came from less than one, off of 1%, of evidence. Like, what the fuck they do that? Excuse me. Like, how does that work, man? Is I'm the only person that just bugs me? Them numbers is just so out of misplaced, dude. How could you dare come to our community with that garbage? How could you do that? Okay, you know what? I believe you get it and you understand what I'm saying. But how dare you? Now, before I go on to the next piece, I just gotta say, look, whoever's pulling the strings up there, whoever's these guys master teachers, or whoever these guys handlers, or superiors, or superiors, or some shit like that, you gotta get better material. You gotta get better people. On to the next one, cause these dudes can't cut it. On to the next phase. On to the next things. This you lost. It's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? If you wanna keep going, it's just gonna get deeper and deeper for you. I advise you to move on, because it will get deeper for you. If you sit here and think that you found 1% of, you found less than 1% of something, and you gonna tell me some fact about it? These dudes hold these dudes hold this Satan supremacists, or whatever you want to call it. These dudes hold their work up high. Actually, I'm not gonna talk about that. Y'all gonna say that for last. Let me go ahead and go into my piece. Now, I'm a very mathematical person, or at least I claim to be. And there's a certain type of way that you use math. And math should be the #1 source of all your research. All your research and your resources. If you don't include math in it, then all you got is propaganda. And so you you gonna try to slide this information onto some cyborgs. It ain't gonna happen. You're gonna need to match your numbers up with your propaganda. At least lie to us and tell us, oh, you know what? We did a military scan of the earth, and we found out that there was only like 7 more bones left, and we got majority of them, and now we're gonna tell a story on how life began. Then that would be a little better. But if you gonna tell me you found a couple thousand out of some billions, and you got a conclusion, on to the next one. But anyway, now, there's a couple different types of scholarship, and one of the scholarships that I came up with for these type of people is IP scholars, or IP scholarship. Now, to understand IP scholarship, you got to understand what is their agenda. And so I need you to understand this. It's called IP scholarship. It stands for ideology pushing scholarship. Ideology pushing scholarship. Ideology pressured scholarship. It's scholarship based on ideology. You see, it's not. There's no numbers in it. It's basically ideology with some research. Okay. Now I know a lot of people say it's pseudoscience, but I don't use that. That shit sound like some Japanese dipping sauce for some squid or some shit. Alright, you would you like some pseudo? You know. And no, hell no. So that shit just sound weird as hell coming out with my accent and the way I talk. It just sound weird as hell. I don't use that. And so we got ideology pushing scholarship. So this means we need to push this ideology. And so these people are in our neighborhood and they're in our communities to push their ideology and push their agenda. Now, I come up with 3 different conclusions why, and these are my personal 3 conclusions why they are doing this. But you can come up with your own, but we both know that all their information and all their ideology and all the mainstream scientists that's connected to the eugenicists, that's connected to the Darwin, that's connected to the information that they're spewing, we all know all of that have some type of goal or some type of bubble, and they have some type of political agenda. And so with ideology pushing scholarship, you have to be very specific because numbers and adding up and mathematics is their worst enemy. And it's just so happened that's my best friend. So you will not be able to cut it. So tell your leaders, tell your master teachers. Matter of fact, master teachers, tell your students that they're no longer needed. So I don't know what you're going to do to them. Hopefully you won't hurt them and we find them missing or come up with some mysterious cancer or some shit. Just leave them alone because they still our brothers and sisters. They did a good job. Leave them alone. On to the next level. Let's move on to something else. This shit is getting boring. Now, when you're dealing with ideology pushing scholarship, now I come up with only 3 reasons. The first reason I believe is that I believe these guys are pushing this AI scholarship. This IP scholarship is because it's a hard pill to swallow. New information and new things sometimes is very hard to swallow, especially when you are older, because older people have a harder time, adapting. And this is my opinion, and you can also back it up with some books and stuff if you want to. This is my opinion. Now, I use opinion. I'm very opinionated. I use a lot of opinion. And so my opinion does not represent nobody else but my opinion, but me. So I'm always up for, so you can always double check and you can always teach me something new. And I would like that. But I don't come with you claiming to be no scholarship, just giving you, some mathematics with some opinion. But the math has to speak for itself. And the opinion is just my opinion, and the math is some people say it's the language of God. Some people say numbers don't lie. Some people, you can't go wrong with numbers. So I can talk all the opinion I want, but as long as those numbers adding up, do you. Now, when it comes to the IP scholars, me myself, I break it down to 3 reasons, and these are my 3 reasons, and you can actually pick one for yourself, or you can come up with your own. Now, I actually believe that these guys, are have some type of pressure, or have some type of, or have some type of stake in what they believe, and so they have to make sure that what they push out fit their belief system. And so they would make a whole video for an hour, and it would be a half an hour of opinion, and it would be like 10 minutes of actual reading and showing information, and then it will be another, another 40 minutes or so, or something like that, of trying to convince you how smart I am, and showing you my credentials and things like that. But there's no math involved whatsoever, and that shit can't cut it no more. Now, the other reason is because these people actually believe mainstream science, and they actually believe that they're helping the community, and they're trying their best to help the community. Even though the information of the mainstream science is nothing more than ideology, is nothing more than IP scholarship or IP information, they actually believe it. And so they actually trying to help the people by pushing this mainstream scientific garbage. That's another one. Now, the other one is that these guys have a superior, and they superior have placed them in our community to push this ideology. Point blank range. You're there for a reason. Go to the black community and make sure this ideology is, is dominant there. And if you do, there can be some rewards, and you have scientists to back you up, mainstream scientists, well-known scientists and philosophers who did the greatest dig in 1966 or some shit. They'll be backing you up the whole way. Mainstream scientists. And so it's kind of confusing, but at some point you have to say, man, these people have been placed here. And at some point you got to be like, man, these people are just hardworking people, man. They trying to help. Or you might be like, man, these dudes just don't know how to do math. You know what I'm saying? Or some shit. I don't know. Excuse me for my goofy self. Now, before I move on, because I'm gonna go ahead and close this out pretty soon, I wanna say one thing to the mainstream scientists. Now, to the guys who like the mainstream scientists, and they hold the mainstream science and the mainstream IP information very dearly. Listen to your people. Listen to your ancestors. Listen to your fellow brothers. Just listen. Without saying anything. Just listen. And understand, if you can. Now, I'm going to break this down a little bit for you. Now, I'm going to ask the chat room. I'm going to need some people in the chat room. Who in the chat room? I'm going to go in the chat room, and I'm going to ask you some questions. And this to help reveal the answer. Now, I want to ask the chat room, who is the most world-traveled people throughout the history of humanity? Can anybody give me an answer? The most well-traveled people throughout the history of humanity. We're talking the people. we're talking people who been around the world, who traveled back and forth, trading, whatever. Can anybody answer that question? Can anybody answer that question? Let me see who we got in here, because I know there's a little bit of delay. Oh, somebody said the Moors. Somebody said the Moors. Anybody say the Moors? Anybody else say the Moors? So somebody said the Moors. So basically, because I kind of agree from my limited knowledge and my conscious community knowledge. So according to the conscious community information, the Moors. So here we go. So you have the Moors, which is, some people say it's us, some people say it's relatives, some people say it's ancestors. So you have the world's most traveled people throughout the planet, throughout the whole entire planet. Okay, will be the Moors. Now let me ask you one more question. Where do you think the Aboriginal philosophy comes from? Can anybody answer my question? See, they get to switching up the word, but it's still the same people. Can anybody answer that question? Where did this information stimulate? Where does it come from? Where does the indigenous information comes from? Where does it start? Where does it resonates? Where did it comes from? Can anybody answer that question? The Aboriginal information. There's only two things. There's only two things we believe. We believe we were here first, and we believe that we're going to have to get ourselves up and get together, and we're going to have to defend our land, or we're going to have to at least, work our land, whether it, in what kind of way. So we only got two things that we, that we know. Anything else is a personal claim. So anybody want to chime in? Okay, the Moors. Kind of ironic, huh? Kind of ironic. So you have the Moors over here, which is the most world-traveled people throughout the history. Some people say they even taught the Europeans how to bathe. They taught them how to be civilized. They taught them how to walk upright and stuff like that. I even heard those type of stories. And they're the most world-traveled people throughout the history of time. And they are the ones that tell you you are indigenous to America. The information stimulates from them, which is you, which is your own people. Your own people is telling you this. And not just regular people. We're talking about the most world-traveled people throughout the history of humanity. So give them the credit that they deserve. And they're telling you you are indigenous to America. Now, on the other hand, let's look at the other hand. On the other hand, you have the Europeans with their calculations and their DNAs. But keep in mind, the Moors taught you. The Moors taught you. We taught you that. And the melanated people taught you that. So your calculator don't fool me, because I taught you how to use it. Your DNA stuff don't fool me, because I taught you how to use it. Now what they're saying No, you're not indigenous to you're not indigenous to America. You came from Africa in the bottom of a slave boat, handcuffed and starving to death. So you have melanated people gonna believe the European over their own ancestors. And not just any old ancestors, the world's most traveled people in the whole planet is telling you and stimulates from them. And you mean to tell me you gonna believe a calculator and your conqueror over your own people? People. This is kind of messed up. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. And think about the mathematics. You have 1 billion, and then you have less than 1%. So, what does less than 1% say about that billion? What can you actually conclude from that? 0. So today, boys and girls, the number is 0. It's all ideology. That's it. The ideology pushing scholars. They're here to push an ideology and here to push an agenda. If you don't have math in it, don't even bother. Don't even bother. So to your master teachers, master teachers, however high this shit goes, I'm gonna let you know. You're gonna have to come with a new game plan. We're not the same people no more. It's a whole different other ball game. So bring on a new batch of people at least, or just let's move on to something new. Cause you ain't got a chance in hell to pull some monkey shit off around here. You ain't got a chance in hell to pull some monkey shit off with less than 1% of, you know what I'm saying? So now we understand and let's be respectful, these are some educated people. But we have to understand the difference between mainstream science. And just because your ancestor said something doesn't mean it's true. But when the world's most well-traveled people identify you as the people of this land, you might just want to not like, you might just want to at least think about it a little bit. At least try to, figure out why they're saying this. Because the scientists might back the monkey agenda up, but our ancestors and closest kin and closest cousins, however you want to call them, they back us up. So that makes us even more prouder. That makes us even more dangerous. And that also lets you know that this is our land. And that's the whole point of this. Now, if you wanna come from the bottom of a boat and you wanna tell your children that our people came from the bottom of a boat, starving in handcuffs, that's cool. That's cool. But just think about it for a second. Think about the mathematics and think about the ideology before it gets real ugly. You know what I mean? Before it get real ugly and we really have to go deeper. So to the master teachers, master's teachers. This is too easy. Bring on another batch of people or change the conversation to something. Because this is ridiculous. You ain't gonna pull this off. Not today, you not. So on to the next one. And that's all I gotta say, is because this shit You can't cut it. You just can't cut it. We show you how ideology and science, mainstream science, is that. Now there are some people that's not part of the mainstream. They out there. But anytime you gonna regurgitate some mainstream science, you lost. Because where it's coming from and what it's classified as. Nothing more than IP scholarship. So, with that being said, peace to the chat. Peace to everybody. We know what we got to do. And like I say, to the talent, to the leader, to the leader of the leader, the general, however high this shit goes. On to the next one.